Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Mr. Uejio, am I saying your name right, sir?
It's Uejio, Senator.
Uejio, thank you. You've been nominated for Assistant Secretary of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity at HUD. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, that is correct.
Tell me the difference between Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Fair Housing Act.
Certainly, Senator. My understanding is that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act deals principally with labor practices and employment practices, whereas the Fair Housing Act is principally focused on discrimination in housing, sir.
Okay. Is there a difference in the protected classes in the two statutes?
Thank you, Senator. I don't have a ton of experience with Title VII. I will say that the protected classes under the Fair Housing Act are well established as race, national origin, religion, familial status. I can name the rest if you'd like, Senator.
Okay. Tell me about Bostock v. Clayton County, the Supreme Court case.
Yes, Senator. So my understanding about Bostock was that it interpreted specifically the protected class in the Fair Housing Act dealing with sex and gender to include LGBTQIA individuals for those protections, and that was...
Excuse me if you're interrupting, but was Bostock an employment case or a housing case?
Senator, thanks for the question. You know, I actually don't know the answer to that, Senator.
Well, it's kind of fundamental. I mean, what was the holding of Bostock?
My sense was that Bostock, as it's been interpreted by HUD, it made...
I'm not asking how HUD interpreted it. I mean, you've read the opinion. What does it say?
Sure.
It's an employment case, right?
My sense, Senator, I get what you're getting at with this questioning.
What am I getting at?
My sense is that this was a case... Well, I'm not a lawyer, Senator, and I have not had a good deal of experience with labor law, but the position I've been nominated for deals with...
Well, let me tell you what I'm getting at, okay? Bostock dealt with employment discrimination. Okay, its holding doesn't have to do with housing. Do you propose that the holding of Bostock be extended to housing?
Senator, my understanding is that HUD issued an interpretive rule.
I'm not asking about HUD. I know what HUD's done. I'm asking about you. Bostock, you say you've read it, and I believe you. If you have, you know it's an employment discrimination case, right?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Do you think that the holding of Bostock can fairly be extended to the field of housing?
Senator, my view is that the role for which I've been nominated is to faithfully enforce the laws as Congress has written them and as they have been interpreted by the courts.
I'm asking you what the law is. I'm asking you what Bostock held, and do you think that Bostock can be extended to housing?
Senator, and I apologize if I'm missing the mark on your question. My sense is that Bostock held that the sex-prohibited basis or protected class under that set of laws under Title VII did include individuals who identify as LGBTQIA.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. Bostock was an employment discrimination case. All you got to do is read it. There it is, big as Dallas, okay? And HUD has said, we're going to apply Bostock to housing. Not employment discrimination, to housing. And you're going to have to go along with that. Otherwise, you're not going to last very long on your job. So legally, how can that be done?
So, Senator, I don't presently work at HUD. I am familiar with the interpretive rule you've described.
I don't think you're going to answer me, and I'm going to run out of time. So let me ask Dr. Bernstein a question. Doc, why did you think inflation was temporary?
The word, of course, transitory is what you're referring to, and I not only believe, but I've said, and this is...
Well, is temporary and transitory, those are synonymous, right?
Yeah, those are they're synonyms. And
okay,
I think
well, tell me why...
But I think transitory was...
Tell me why you thought inflation... I'm going to be accurate. Why in your infinite wisdom you thought inflation was transitory or temporary.
Well, let me be clear about what we meant at the time. And by the way, and this is contrary to what Ranking Member Scott said earlier, I did not ever say that people didn't understand transitory. What I said was we didn't understand transitory. In fact,
well, that's clear. We can stipulate to that.
That word that word is temporally ambiguous. It meant different things. To some people, it meant 2 weeks. To some people, it meant 2 years. What we meant, and let me answer your question, we thought inflation was going to accelerate and gradually cool down over time. Now, that has turned out to be in fact, the pattern that inflation has taken. But transitory was much too ambiguous a description of that dynamic. Acceleration, cooling.
So
now, inflation is down from 9% to 5%.
Are you telling me that when you said inflation was transitory, you were correct?
No, I'm not saying I was correct or incorrect. What I'm saying was that was an ambiguous...
Like you're saying you were correct.
No, I'm saying that was an ambiguous, an unclear word that was poorly chosen, I think, for that discussion because it meant different things to different people. To me...
Well, has it been transitory?
Inflation has, in fact, behaved much as I just described. We thought inflation was going to accelerate and gradually cool over time. And that is
Jared's going to cut me off. Has it been transitory?
Inflation has accelerated and cooled.
Senator's time's expired. I want to fulfill what you said, that I was going to cut you off.
Yeah.
Senator Van Hollen of Maryland's recognized.